This lesson will be all about user input. We are going to make our pet draggable so that I can drag this sprite around and drop it wherever I want. That's obviously going to work with the touch as well, not just the mouse. And we're also going to make these sprites here clickable or touchable so that we execute a certain method when these elements are clicked. So let's begin by making the pet draggable. You'll see how simple it is. You'll be surprised how simple this is in Phaser. So we want to have a draggable pet. All you need to do is enable input first on the pet. Input enabled equals true. And then this.pet.input.enable drag. You call this method and now the pet is draggable. So I'm reloading the game and you can see now that you can place it anywhere you want. So this is how you can make any element in your game draggable. And regarding the actual sprites, this should be very straightforward for you because we've done it before. Also, I want to make sure that the anchor point is in the middle. So let me do that real quick, because they're all looking too much to the right. So I was meant to add this previously. Now all of them will be on the right position. And in order to make them clickable, that's also very simple. All we need to do is enable input and then listen to an event. So there will be this.apple.input enabled equals true. We just need to repeat this for the other elements then. And also this.apple.events.onInput down. So that's triggered when I either touch or click on the element. .add. And now we need a method that we're going to call pickItem, and we're going to pass it the context, the current context. So how do we create this method? This one's called pickItem, and it is simply a function that has two parameters. The first one is the actual sprite. So if this is executed on the apple, this one will be the apple. And we also pass it the event, so that the method can access the coordinates of the event, because that's something that we will need in this game. We will click on an apple and then we will click, say, here. So we need the coordinates of this point to move to put an apple in there, and having the event like so will give us that point. And why did we pass this? Because if we want to grab other elements that are in this context, if we pass this, then we can just use this inside of this method and they will work in the same way. But for now, all we're going to do is just console.log, say that you are picking an item, and we'll have this method will be used for these three entities, but the rotation will be a different one. That will be called rotate pet, and this one will be just rotating. Also, we want to have different. So, for example, the pet, the apple will give the pet more health. The candy will give the pet fun, but it will take health away, and the duck will just give it fun. So we want to have a custom property in all of our buttons, so that each one does something a bit different. So I'm going to add that as well, this apple.custom params, because that's how I like to call this. This one will do some health. It will add 10 of health. Sorry, 20 of health. And let's just copy this whole code and reuse it in here. The candy will take away health, so it will have a negative value, and it will add fun. Then the toy, whoops, will follow a similar approach, but it will actually add fun and not take away any health. And rotation, we don't need custom parameters for that, but we do need to enable the input. So I'm just gonna get rid of this. And so we enable input, and then the method that we call is actually rotate pet. So if I reload the game now, I can now drag and drop the pet, that's all good, and I can see how I've picked items or rotating the pet. Now all we need to do is to implement that behavior. And lastly, a couple of things I wanted to add at the end. One was a variable called buttons, which will contain all the buttons that we have, just in case I need to do something with them. I will need this later on, but I don't need it for now. And also I want to keep track of the selection of what's currently being selected. So that will be this dot selected item. For now, it's going to be null because nothing is selected. So just to summarize, what we did here was enable track on our pet, for which all we needed to do was enable input first, and then we could enable drag. We've also enabled input for our buttons, and we're listening for the input down event. When that's triggered, we either call the pick item method or the rotate pet method. And we're passing it this just in case we need to access this, the context inside of this method. So for example, what if we want to access the background here? The background is this.background. So since we passed this, we can use this.background inside of here. All of these callback methods for input events will receive a parameter with the sprite and a parameter with information about the event. This will give us, for example, the coordinates. So that's useful if you need to do something with the location of where the click or the touch took place.